Olá, pessoal, tudo bem? Sejam muito bem-vindos, muito bem-vindas. Hoje a gente vai falar aqui de um assunto que tem despertado muita curiosidade e, ao mesmo tempo, ainda é uma novidade para muita gente, que é o SXSW Londres. Estamos aqui com algumas convidadas especiais. Daqui a pouquinho a gente apresenta elas para vocês, mas o que eu queria aqui era, na verdade, dar boas-vindas, dizer que é mais uma live que nós fazemos com o SXSW Londres. Eu sou o Franklin Costa, essa aqui do meu lado é a Carol Soares. Nós somos sócios do clube, que é uma consultoria de inovação e marketing especializada em design de experiências e grandes eventos e festivais. Nos últimos 15 anos, a gente vem acompanhando de perto a evolução do SXSW, principalmente em Austin. Provavelmente você que já segue a gente sabe disso. Desde 2018, a gente guia grupos de empresas e profissionais para Austin. Desde o ano passado, também, nós montamos um grupo para Londres e nós ficamos muito impressionados, muito felizes com o que nós vimos nessa capital, nessa edição. Para mim, foi um alívio entender que o South by consegue manter o seu DNA em outros locais, mas com uma outra proposta, com uma proposta mais fresh, mais cool, e com uma identidade própria. A gente também trabalha com Itaú, com a Globo, e nos últimos 3 anos como curadores da São Paulo House, que é a Embaixada do Brasil em Austin. Mas o nosso papo de hoje não é sobre os Estados Unidos, o nosso papo de hoje é sobre Londres, e a gente vai deixar alguns links aqui no descritivo para você poder entender um pouquinho como é que foi a primeira edição do SXSW Londres. Mas uma coisa que eu adianto é que quando a gente enxerga esse evento, a gente não vê mais ele como uma extensão de Austin, a gente vê ele como uma experiência bem diferente. Então, eu já te adianto um spoiler do que a gente vai conversar aqui hoje. Se você está pensando em participar do SXSW Londres nesse ano, fica até o final dessa live. E aqui é de verdade algo que você vai gostar muito, porque a gente vai dar super um empurrãozinho para você facilitar a sua viagem para Londres esse ano e você entender quem é esse. Eu costumo brincar dizendo que se o South by for uma família, o South by Southwest London é o Gen Z da família. E ele vem com toda uma característica de Gen Z. A Tracy está entendendo muito bem. Eu acho que hoje Austin é o Gen X, ou está quase Millennium, e aqui você está tendo uma nova proposta de você enxergar um novo South by Southwest. Pelo jeito que a Tracy está concordando aqui, acho que ela tá rindo, tá concordando, né, Tracy?
É isso.
Mas, enfim, eu já estou me adiantando, falando uma opção de coisa aqui. Eu acho que, Carol, por favor, me complementa aqui nessa introdução.
Vamos lá, Franklin. Oi, pessoal, sejam bem-vindos, bem-vindas. É um prazer estar aqui de novo falando sobre o South by London. E para a gente entender melhor o que faz esse festival único, o que a gente pode esperar da segunda edição do South by London e por que vale a pena considerar essa experiência, a gente convidou duas pessoas que estão diretamente envolvidas com o festival. A nossa querida Tracy Mann, que é International Communications and Partnership Strategist at South by, nossa conhecida. Bem-vinda, Tracy. Obrigada. E também
Tudo
a Laura
bem?
Uccello. Olá. E
Posso dar
também a
um
Laura
oi?
Uccello. Por
Oi.
favor, quantos oi você
Uhum.
quiser. E também a Laura Uccello, que é Director of International and Government Partnership at South by London. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We are so
We are
excited to
gonna,
talk about. Sorry, Franklin.
yeah. Well, no, no. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carol. I just want. I like to say now is the time that we change to English, but
Okay.
we know that Tracy speaks Portuguese very well, very well. And Laura, we recently discovered that she's actually from Venezuela, right, Laura?
Sim, sim,
So
sim.
the next one, probably
Laura
we're
is a
gonna try to do it in
polyglot,
Spanish.
Franklin.
Yeah, polyglot.
Venezuela,
Yeah.
Italia, United States.
Oh,
She has everything all mixed up in there.
Just like
perfect,
South
So,
by.
perfect.
yeah, we are talking about South by London, but we have like a kind of Latina vibe today. So,
Definitely, definitely.
so just going directly to the point, Laura, I think one of the main questions and curiosity that the Brazilian audience has right now is what makes South by London unique compared to Austin?
Well, first and foremost, London is a very different city to Austin. And one of the key things that we wanted to do is not, because it would be impossible to actually copy the energy of Austin and bring it to a different city, but actually embrace the energy that London has, particularly towards business and the creative industries. So London is second to none when it comes to the growth of the creative industries in Europe. So coming to London means not just meeting with the UK, which is absolutely open for business for our creatives and our innovators coming from Brazil, but also meeting with a very wide range of potential partners and potential clients that wouldn't necessarily go to Austin because they got, it's an intimidating trip. And actually, South by Southwest London can be that first moment in which they engage with a platform like this. So, we get a lot of visitors that also participate in Austin, but also a very wide range of new ones that prefer coming to London because it's a much more, I would say, targeted platform in which we really focus on that B2B connection. We have still, a number of consumer tickets for a lot of our activities, but our main focus is really build the B2B community and networking opportunities to really make that trip worthwhile from Brazil.
No, that's amazing. We've been to London last year. It was the first edition. So we were so surprised with the city, with the festival. Was really interesting. That's why we are supporting this festival this year edition. But we've been to Austin Franklin had been to Austin since 2012, and I've been to Austin since 2014, something like this. And I know that many Brazilians also have been to Austin so many times. But why should someone from Brazil choose London now as their South by experience, or even as their first South by experience?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I would say, this year is very special because we have really listened to the feedback of our first year of really focusing on more networking opportunities. So we have, over 200 roundtables that we will be hosting across all different, sectors and levels of expertise. So that puts you at the forefront. Obviously, we have wonderful sessions, we have great screenings and great showcases, but we really want you to start connecting directly with people who could be potential clients or potential partners with the themes that you care about. So the roundtable section is incredible, and I invite you to actually go on our website and start looking at those networking opportunities. But we also have a really strong mentorship program and a really strong array of lounges and spaces where you can really connect with new people. Because I know, I mean, from what I've seen in Austin, first time I've been to Austin was in 2007, but I was very lucky to go this year just a few weeks ago. And Brazilians are all about growing their network and pitching, and you guys are not shy on meeting new people. So this is a space that we have really built further to really push those new encounters and new connections that can bring that can be born out of South by. I would say that is not as easy in Austin because Austin is so big. So there's so much that you can do that it can feel a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially if it's your first time. And if it's your first time actually coming to London, we attract about 20,000 visitors. That is much more manageable to, as your first experience per se. And I'm sure, you will find a lot of Brazilians in London. Tracy knows this very well. After the US, our largest delegation last year, even though it was just year one, was Brazil. And that was a
Oh, wow.
great mix of, participants coming directly from Brazil, but also Brazilians that were living in Europe and in London coming to the festival. So you will definitely find a friendly face from Brazil in London.
And may I
Amazing.
just add something, I think, for the first
Please.
time experience? If you haven't been to Austin, what is so charming about London is the neighborhood. And Carol and Franklin, you experienced this last year. It is still a charming neighborhood full of character, full of history. And Austin, for better and for worse, has become a very modern, real urban city. And also because Austin uses the hotels as their main stages, there perhaps is a little less character compared to what you're going to find in London. You're going to find a very sort of special and historical and kind of magical experience of having your South by take place in this marvelous East End of London.
I really loved your collocation, your explanation about the venues, because this is the thing that called my attention at first when I was last year in London. Actually, my background picture is Shoreditch. Yes, it's
Yeah.
London. And Carol chose
I'm
another
nearby. I'm
touristic.
nearby.
She's a first timer, and I'm an insider. And I love the venues because there are actually some historical buildings, like Victorian buildings, like power plants and old breweries, and the place is amazing, and the people on the streets, they are amazing also. You are in contact with people on the streets that you cannot find in Austin, right? For
Frankly,
example,
let me.
Shoreditch is
Sorry,
okay.
no, sorry. You can finish. Sorry. I'd
No,
like
I
to
just
add
would.
something.
Okay, okay,
I'd like
please
to add
go.
something related to what Laura said, because this year we observed something a kind of different in the Brazilian interest in South by Austin that I think connected to what Laura said, that Brazilians, they are more looking for mentor sessions and roundtables experience, like, because we know that the presentations, they will be online, they can watch later. So we had like this year with the groups that we mentor in South by Austin, a huge interest in participating in the mentor sessions. So I think what Laura said is really interesting, because it's where you can really make some connections, and we can talk with people with your industry and explain your projects and make nice partnerships. So I think it's very interesting also to the South by London.
And that reminds me that we have to make some homework, that we have to have a presence in English, also a digital presence in English for our cards to be distributed at the event. But talking about Brazilians, I'm gonna ask something to Tracy. Tracy, from your perspective, how is the Brazilian communities engaging with South by Southwest London?
Well, I think a great thing, Franklin, is that many people who attend South by Southwest, both in the United States and London, are really good travelers. So they're acquainted with London. They know all the cultural opportunities, or they are aware of that, and it's in their itinerary of international places that they're going to go to. I was really impressed that Brazil was the second largest after the United States. Even with just our very first start, it worked out that way. And of course, we're seeing a much bigger movement this year. And I just want to cite the fact that Laura has been a fabulous ambassador. I know you guys call me the ambassador for South by Southwest in Brazil, but I didn't say for London, Laura is tops, because she has found so many ways to involve Brazil in the programming, in meetings, in connections. She's really devoted a lot of energy to that and a lot of grace, which I'm very grateful for. And I think Brazilians are going to notice that the care that they like in Austin, that we try to give them, they're going to get that. And actually a little bit more in London, because London, for being smaller and having government involvement, has more flexibility and in some ways more opportunity.
Yeah, I
Oh, thank
truly
you for
believe,
that, Tracy.
and
No,
I can prove it because actually when we met, Laura was in Helsinki last year during the Slush conference, and she came to us. She didn't need to came to us. She came to us in person, facing like -3 degrees Celsius with snow, winter. So when she was there, and I asked her like, "Oh, will you go to will you attend the Slush conference?" And then she told me, "No, actually, I'm here just to meet you personally, meet you in person." And then I was like, "Wow, that's the kind of investor that I would like to have in my event if I'm working at South by Southwest London." So
Mhm.
thank you so much, Laura. And now I have
thank
a question for you. Since we are talking about London, and London, I believe that's one of the biggest hoax to invite Brazilians, because I always used to say this when we are traveling to South by Southwest at Austin, we are traveling to South by Southwest, period. When we are traveling to South by Southwest London, we are traveling to London. And by the way, there is also a South by Southwest happening here. That's amazing. So my question to you is like, what does London offer beyond the festival? Why should Brazilians attend to South by Southwest, of course, but imagine someone that doesn't that don't ever travel to London before. Why? How do you pitch this to this audience?
Well, London has, such a wide selection of great attractions and heritage sites, and obviously there's football, there's concerts, there's a lot of things happening. But I think one of the favorites in the last couple of years since COVID has to be ABBA Voyage, which, it's really hard to even, find a word to explain it, because we had a fantastic panel last year with actually Bjorn himself from ABBA talking about the tech behind it, the investment, the relationship with the city, and why London, why they decided to do it there. And first and foremost, I love it because it's in the East End, and South by Southwest London is in the East End, so it really speaks to the cultural fabric of the East End. But also, it's not a musical, it's not a concert, it's not a tech experience. It's so much more than that, because you have a really nice time before even the show begins. There's a whole invitation to people just have drinks and look at the merchandise and just hang out before, almost in a pub setting, and then you go into it. And everybody, you have in your mind how it will look, but when you're actually there, you're like, this is like nothing that I imagined. And it's not just the tech, as the live band, which is, the live band has some of the most talented musicians that come from the West End, that come from, great, musical training. So you have that live element of it, and then obviously the tech and the energy of the people there. I mean, what I love is that you can see people dancing all dressed up in ABBA. So feel free to actually bring all your ABBA clothes. And they might be, you have from the 6-year-olds all the way to the 90-year-olds just loving music. And it really speaks to how music, brings people together. So definitely get some ABBA Voyage tickets. But this year we also have at the V&A, there's an incredible exhibition that's getting amazing reviews for all the fashion fans. So it's a Schiaparelli retrospective, which is incredible, and it really shows her relationship with not just fashion, but with art. So definitely one to see. And also, the Tate Modern is hosting the largest retrospective of Tracy Emin. So obviously, being in London, don't miss, Tracy Emin while you're here. And then, I would say, all the usual things: Tower Bridge, go into Buckingham Palace, British Museum. The West End has a wide selection as well of musicals, restaurants. And then obviously in the East End, go to the Shoom, that is our restaurant. So you will have a lot to choose from.
Yes, and something important to the Brazilian audience, that if you are planning to travel to London during South by, and you are planning to do all these different things you can do at the city, just book your tickets now, because things get sold out very fast there. So just to hurry and make. I know Brazilians like wants to do things at the last minute, but we are in a London schedule here is a little bit different. Laura, what about the program of South by London this year? I remember last year, one of the things that I thought was more interesting is like the diversity between not only talks and presentations, but also with the art program that was amazing, the music program, the screen program, this mix of things that South by London offered last year, and also the mix of venues and this kind of different experience. What can you expect this year related to the program and to the venues and the South by London?
Yeah, of course. So we have listened as well to feedback. So this year we have um venues that are closer together, so a bit less walking. But we have more of them. So we have about 40 different venues, and as you guys were saying, they're all very much quintessentially British. They have a lot of character, and they range from, Georgian buildings to pubs. to some quite high-tech spaces as well. So, even within the different sessions that you will go, you will discover various different new neighborhoods and spaces. I think, with the conference this year, we have a really strong focus on AI, which obviously doesn't come as as a surprise. And that really has to do with, we want to show a very different side of AI. So we want to show from the deep tech to med tech to AI in the creative industries, AI throughout. We are not just showing products of AI, but really showing the experts and what's going to happen next. So particularly if you are, interested in that section and that sector, there's going to be much more than last year. I think also, another sector that we have enlarged that's really interesting is marketing and advertising. So that is a sector in which we're really focusing on showing a lot of case studies, showing a lot of statistics, and making our sessions more workshops than just panels. Because we saw that last year, actually, we want our audience to take something back to their agencies, to their practice that they've learned from those sessions. So that we have really widened that up to show more that can be taken. And then we have, 18 different tracks this year, over 40 different venues, 500 speakers. On the showcases, we're coming back with about 60 different music curators. So you will hear, I mean, our amazing head of music, Adem Holness, always likes to say that he wants the music showcase to be like walking around London, that you hear one genre here, one genre there, and there's just a whole mix of different energies and you know, flavors per se. So we have that, absolutely. We have a showcase from Abbey Road. We have showcases from Korea. We have showcases that are looking at very emerging artists all the way to more established ones. So you will have a whole really wide suite of music. And then with Screen, I mean, it's one of those that we're incredibly proud. Actually, just yesterday, we announced a new partnership with and I have to read this because I don't want to get it wrong, and it's a bunch of letters, so it's ABGO, which is an independent studio that was founded by the Russo brothers behind Marvel. And they're going to, they're both going to be here. So both Anthony and Joe Russo will be a pair of our headline speakers, and they're going to be talking about their relationship with games and immersive experiences with the former chief creative officer of Epic Games, Donald Mustard. So that is, I think who we are in a nutshell on a session, that really interesting intersection between two creative sectors, film and games, and then not talking about what's happening now, but actually talking about what's next. So you as a business leader know what trends to be aware of.
Amazing. Tracy, we already are like the first international delegation in Austin. We are going to be soon the first, maybe in London. But also we had like we have a great presence in terms of brands, in terms of presentations, in terms of music and screening. What can you expect of this kind of Brazilian presence in South by London this year?
Well, I think Laura has been following a very smart strategy. And too bad we didn't think of this in Austin years ago because, well, brands are not rushing to London as brand activations or brand sponsorships. Laura is making space for them on the stages, and I think this is going to be really compelling. Tatiana Ponce from Natura will be speaking. She's the CMO. A Brazilian creative at Publicis in London is bringing a session on globalism in music, pairing music with advertising. We've got a founder that may not be, he is Brazilian, he may not be so well known in Brazil, but Jadson Almeida, he founded a music and AI company called Moises, which is actually a multinational, and he's based in Spain. He'll be a key speaker on the stage. And then on top of that, we're going to have global executives in dialogue with BBC, which I think is fabulous. You have two of the biggest production companies in the world in dialogue. We'll be seeing emerging filmmakers from Brazil presented by Itaú. So we have the brands Itaú coming in that way, Globo, Natura, and coming in through organically through the program, I think is going to really be the front of an even bigger push from Brazil, not only in 2026, but for the future in London.
We will also be there supporting every action from Brazil. Actually, I was with Marília Marton, our cultural secretary this week, and then we were talking about London, and maybe there's something that's happening in
Well,
the
thank
next
you for
days.
mentioning that. We can't really talk about it yet, quite yet, but we do expect to see Marilia, as usual, in the mix of culture and business and with a presence of São Paulo and Brazil in London. But we'll have more to say about that later.
Brazil is coming to South by Southwest London, and we are getting to the end of this interview. I know that you have a very short agenda, and we are just having two or three more questions. And one of the things that I would like to ask you is both of you, Tracy and Laura, can start with you, Tracy. What's your number one tip to make the most out of South by Southwest London?
To make the most out of South by Southwest London is like all South by Southwest have a plan that you will be ready to throw in the garbage once you start moving through your day and coming up with all these serendipitous opportunities. I would like to just make a little pitch for if you want to just kind of get out of the crowd for a minute, have a drink in a really cool environment. I recommend Hidden Grooves, which is located in the lobby of the Virgin Shoreditch Hotel on Curtin Road.
Mm.
It's pretty close to everything going on at South by, but they have a collection of old vinyl there that is really fun. And in late afternoon, there'll be guys spinning the vinyl. It's a great place for a little drink, or if you want to meet somebody for a coffee, I think it's fantastic. Hidden
I
Grooves.
love I love the tip. You can count on me on this. And you, Laura?
Well, I think I learned this from Austin, and I know this is a new trend per se, but actually getting on those group chats on WhatsApp for each individual sector. I know like Brazil has, I can't even keep up on how many group chats they are, but it's great because you have a support system before the trip that can help you plan ahead, and they all know, what, a lot of things that even us as organizers don't know are happening. So, trying to get part of some of those communities is great because then you can also stay in touch after the festival, and it gives you that initial support system before you go. And I think the other thing is, don't be afraid to approach anybody. And when I say anybody, please approach our speakers, our filmmakers, our musicians. Like they are there to meet you as much as you are there to meet them. So network very, very aggressively in a nice, kind way, but without being like, oh no, this person's a CEO or this person's a CMO. No, like everybody, we treat all our delegates and participants the same, and that is the beauty of South by, is that it brings this amazing platform where you can go in front of a CEO and pitch your idea or your agency or whatever it might be. But also don't be afraid to take pictures with the musicians because that's another thing we love.
Okay.
So yeah, don't be afraid and get on the WhatsApp groups.
That's perfect. We run one of these WhatsApp groups that's called Radar ou Clube Inovação. So thank you so much. We are gonna just put the
Making the
link
WhatsApp group
in the
now.
description. If you're liking this video, you can just save it and then go for our group. I mentioned at the beginning of this session that we would have an announcement to do that would help people from Brazil to travel to London this year. And I'm just gonna tell this in a minute. I just would like to wrap it up our conversation with one final question. Is there anything that you would like also to tell the Brazilian audience, the Brazilian community, that you didn't tell at this live session before? Any other recommendations? Any other tips? You can go, Laura, first, please.
Perfect. I will say that one of the key must-dos at South by is also visiting UK House and the British Music Embassy because they are such great places to meet some of the most senior, people across government, but also across the creative industries. It's really a hub for us because we do use that space in Devonshire Square as kind of our investment hub. But like that's where, if you really want to be making those relationships with the UK, that's the place to go. And this year they're really super powering. So if you've been to Austin before, I'm sure you've been to UK House, but the experience in London is going to be very, very different and much more geared towards really finding new investment opportunities for Brazilians to come to the UK, but also likewise, UK investors looking for opportunities to go beyond. So definitely go there. And then another one that I would say is, check out all the activity and posts on LinkedIn. I'm sure, I mean, Brazilians are very active on it already, but you get to know a lot about what's going on, but also it helps you build your profile. So after you come to South by or after you see a session that's interesting, posting on LinkedIn, you might reconnect with people that you've been chasing emails for days, and they interact with your LinkedIn post. So the more you can communicate, particularly on that platform, about your experience, about how your company is there, about how you are there, that's a huge, huge asset. Because people will say, "Oh, well, I'm at South by as well. Let's go and grab a coffee at the Virgin Hotel," as how Tracy was saying. So, those two items, UK House, and really shout about your participation on LinkedIn are big things too.
You also saved the best for the last, right? So very good tip. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
Tracy, thank you so much, Laura. But now on an ending note with Tracy,
É, e posso falar em português? Can I speak in Portuguese for this
pode.
part?
Claro.
Porque eu acho que o que eu quero dizer, o meu recado é mais filosófico, talvez. Brasil tomou posse do South by Southwest in Austin. Virou, para mim, um negócio com todo o DNA do Brasil. Em Londres, a gente tem a mesma oportunidade. A minha provocação é que venham, façam, criticam, contribuem, trazem toda aquela brasilianidade para Londres e vamos ver o que a gente vai construir junto ali.
Tracy, você é maravilhosa. Muito obrigado. Pessoal, I'm going to just speak in Portuguese also. Okay, Laura, I know that you understand quite a bit, but
Yeah.
it's just a closing notes. Eu comentei que a gente teria uma super anúncio para fazer. O Clube OCLB é um parceiro oficial aqui do South by Southwest London e nós conseguimos disponibilizar, junto com a Laura, uma cota exclusiva e reduzida de passes para o South by Southwest London com 30% de desconto. Ou seja, se você usar o código promocional do clube do OCLB, que nós vamos deixar no descritivo aqui desse vídeo, você consegue garantir os 30% de desconto. Porém, é uma cota reduzida, limitada, para quem está assistindo aqui essa live, para quem segue a gente, a nossa comunidade, e uma forma de incentivar vocês também a conhecerem Londres. Carol, você quer me complementar em algum ponto?
A gente vai colocar o descritivo do código, mas eu só queria comentar para quem já está ouvindo aqui que é SXSWL 26 OCLB. SXSWL 26 OCLB. A gente vai deixar aqui também no descritivo do vídeo, está com 30% de desconto nos passes em qualquer lote, né? Então, corram lá, garantam uma oportunidade única. Vamos para Londres, gente.
E se você quiser vir acompanhado da gente no Clube Journey, nosso grupo já está formado, já tem um grupo bem animado, bem interessante de pessoas para se conectar. A gente faz uma jornada de experiências lá todos os dias. A gente tem encontros para a gente poder discutir o conteúdo. A gente tem momentos de networking e social. Vamos no café que a Tracy indicou, da Virgin. Então, venham com a gente. A gente vai também deixar o link aqui embaixo no descritivo do Clube Journey. Procura a Pri, que daqui a pouco ela te atende. And to our friends today, thank you so much for your time being with us.
Thank you.
And we will hope to see you soon. Yeah, we will definitely see you
Really?
soon.
See you
2
soon.
weeks.
And thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Laura.
again.
Thank you, Tracy. Obrigada, pessoal. Nos vemos.
Tchau,
Obrigado.
tchau.